Okay. Okay. So, as I was saying, the hypotenuse is the side that is always opposite to the right angle. The side that is opposite to theta. And theta is very important. Now, we use theta and it's symbolized by that little symbol. It looks like an O with a line across. We call that theta. Theta is the angle of interest. It is the angle that we want to find out. It's the angle that we do not know. So most of your questions in this topic is going to say find theta, give the value of theta, define theta. Right? It's not going to say, okay, find me the missing angle, or find x, or find y, or find. We're not using algebra in this. We're using theta. Theta is understood as the angle that I want to solve for, the angle that I do not know what it is. So when we go back to the sides of the triangle, the only one that does not change is the hypotenuse. The opposite and the adjacent, depending on your question, they switch. They switch sides. But how do you know where it's going to be? First, you need to label the theta. You need to know and find where the theta is in your triangle. In this case, theta is right here. So the adjacent is right beside theta. And the opposite is opposite to theta. If theta was here on this side, then this would have been the adjacent and this would have been the opposite. Alright? So the theta has to be one of the first things that you label so that you are able to identify all the three sides of the triangle correctly. And it is important because if you do not label them correctly, then your answer for sine, your answer for cosine, and your answer for tangent is going to be wrong. Alright? So we're going to move along. And I'm going to show you guys the other portion of the video.
On the triangle. In a right-angled triangle, if this angle is theta, then the longest side, which is the one opposite the right angle, is called the hypotenuse. This side is called the adjacent side because it's right next to our angle theta. And this side, the one opposite theta, is called, surprise, surprise, the opposite side. So, using this, we can define our trig ratios for any right-angled triangles as the sine of theta equals the opposite side over the hypotenuse. The cosine of theta is the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. And the tan of theta is the opposite side over the adjacent side. These are three formulas you absolutely need to know.
Okay, so they just explained what I explained right now, but they went a little further and they gave you the
On the triangle. In a right-angled triangle, if this angle is...
And they gave you the formulas for each one of them. So here I have the formulas. If you didn't get a chance to write it with the video, and these are important, this is gonna be the foundation. You have to know by heart what is sine, what is cosine, what is tangent, because everything that we're gonna do after this is gonna use those three formulas. All right? So sine, we do spell it as S-I-N-E, but it is acronymed as S-I-N. Cosine, C-O-S-I-N-E, but we do write it as cos theta. And then tangent, T-A-N-G-E-N-T, we write it as tan theta. So sine theta is found by putting the opposite over the hypotenuse. Cos theta is found by putting the adjacent over the hypotenuse, and tan theta is found by putting the opposite over the adjacent, right? So, how do the formulas work? The formulas are quite very easy, and I had asked you guys to get a calculator, a scientific calculator, because as the first part of the video showed, your calculator does have the special little buttons that says sine, cos, and tan. Right? So those are the three functions that we're going to be using. If I were to have labeled my triangle, this side is going to be 5, this side is going to be 3, and this side is going to be 4. For me to find the answer of sine theta, I'm going to put opposite over hypotenuse. So this side is 3 and this side is 5. So sine theta is equal to 3 over 5. Alright, and I'm going to show you guys an example. If you didn't understand what I said just now, I'm going to show you a picture so that you guys can understand what I'm saying. Alright, is everybody finished writing the formulas so I can move on? Yes? Good. So sine, cosine, and tangent, and the abbreviation sin, cos, and tan, these ones are fine. You don't have to write sine and then theta or write tangent and then theta. These little abbreviations here at the bottom work just fine. And then let's continue with the video.
But luckily, there is a sneaky memory trick. SOHCAHTOA. What? SOHCAHTOA. What? It's an acronym. SOHCAHTOA. Sine, opposite over hypotenuse. Cos, adjacent over hypotenuse. Tan, opposite over adjacent. Nice. Keep in mind, these ratios only work on right-angled triangles, so please don't go using them on any old thing. These ratios are the backbone of this entire unit, so it's incredibly important that you have them down.
Okay. So what the video just showed was the acronym. How do I remember the three formulas? Sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse, cosine is equal to opposite over adjacent, tangent is equal to opposite over adjacent. How do I remember those three formulas without confusing them? And the acronym is SOHCAHTOA. Alright? And well, SOHCAHTOA just basically uses the first letter of every part in the formula. S is for sine, O is for opposite, H is for hypotenuse, C is for cosine, A is for adjacent, H is for hypotenuse, T is for tangent, O is for opposite, and A is for adjacent. And all of those first letters of each of the formulas are there in SOHCAHTOA. So when I was in high school, what I usually did was I wrote SOHCAHTOA at the top of my page. And when I needed to use the formula for sine, okay, I knew that sine is SOH, so that means sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is CAH, so that means cosine is equal to adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent is TOA, so I had tangent is equal to opposite over adjacent, right? So S, C, and T, those were the start of the formula. OH, that means that O is at the top, H is at the bottom. Opposite at the top, hypotenuse at the bottom, right? So that was how SOHCAHTOA functions. Now, my questions, and I have a list of questions, and I want different persons to answer, and you could answer more than once, but I want at least 2 persons to give me an answer for each question. Alright, so my first question, what is trigonometry? You don't have to give me a dictionary definition. And don't use your phone and go on Google and tell me what Google says trigonometry is. What is trigonometry? What are we going to talk about in trigonometry? About triangles. Very good, Jamar. What else?
If trigonometry means like dealing with angles.
Dealing with angles. Very good. What else?
Size, size,
Finding sides. Very good. What else? What do we talk about today?
ratios, miss.
Ratios. Very good. So, trigonometry, dealing with triangles, finding the angles and the sides of triangles, and talking about and dealing with the trig ratios. Trigonometry. What is the hypotenuse? The picture is right there. Just tell me what the picture shows.
The longest angle, miss.
The longest angle, is it an angle?
The longest side of the triangle.
The longest side. Very good. The longest side of the triangle. What is sine? Now when I'm asking what is sine, you have to tell me what the formula for sine says.
Opposite over hypotenuse.
Very good, David. Opposite over hypotenuse. Who can tell me what SOHCAHTOA is?
The abbreviation, miss.
The abbreviation for what?
For the
Opposite hypotenuse and then add mean na hope to that word.
SOHCAHTOA is the abbreviation for the formulas for the trig ratio. Hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. What is a ratio? And we talked about this in the beginning. What's a ratio?
pairs, miss.
Repeat again.
There are pairs.
Ordered pairs, very good. In trig, how would I write the ratios if I had two of them? How would I write it?
E and B. E over B.
Very good, Jamar. A over B. What is the opposite? Which side is the opposite? How do we know that that side is the opposite?
It's the smaller side.
Not necessarily. No, well, it could be, but not always.
Miss, it's like the opposite side of the theta, something like that.
Very
like behind
good,
the theta.
Jesse. Very good. The opposite is opposite to theta. What kind of triangle does SOHCAHTOA work for?
Right angle.
Right.
Very good. Very good. You guys are paying attention. Now, what is the tangent? What is the formula for tangent?
Tan equals opposite over hypotenuse.
So close. You missed one of them.
Opposite of the I can't say the word, miss.
Opposite over adjacent. The D is silent. Adjacent. So tangent is opposite over adjacent. What is the adjacent?
Opposite of hypotenuse.
Adjacent over and then hypotenuse.
Say that, miss.
In the triangle, look at the picture. Look at the picture that I have right there. Which side is the adjacent? How do I know that that side is the adjacent?
It's like under the theta, miss.
It's right beside the theta. What is the formula for cosine?
Adjacent over hypotenuse.
Very good. Adjacent over hypotenuse. So now, what can we calculate using SOHCAHTOA? And when I mean what can we calculate, this is what we're going to be doing for the rest of this week. We're not going well, for this week, we're only going to work with triangles. So I'm going to give you a picture of a triangle. And I'm going to give you the length of the three sides, and you guys have to find sine, cosine, and tangent. So this week is going to be easy, cheesy, weasy work because that's all you have to do. Next week, we get more interesting and we start putting real life into our math class. All right? So, let's see. The first assignment that I have in Google Classroom. Very, very easy. Now, this school year, I'm doing the Google Classroom a little bit differently. I did not post the assignments separately. Both activities are posted under the same document. So now what does that mean? All of the pictures for this first homework and for the second homework have to be posted together under one post, right? So I would suggest you wait until you have finished both activities, then you upload the assignment, right? Because if you upload this one and then you submit, you have to unsubmit to upload the second one, right? So you can work on this first one. This one is not gonna take that long. It's very easy. And then you take a picture of it and you save that picture until you have finished the second assignment. I'm gonna talk about the second assignment tomorrow and Wednesday, all right? So let me explain the first assignment. You are creating a trig flyer. A flyer is a page size, a typing sheet size, letter size. That means the small typing sheet, right? On that flyer, you will be creating, you know what a flyer is, right? You are advertising something. So I expect to see some creativity on your little flyer. So one page size, you are going to write the topic, trigonometric ratios, and please spell it correctly. All you have to do, open that same thing, copy exactly what I have there. Trigonometric ratios is gonna be your title. You are gonna do the picture of the triangle. So the same triangle that I have here, you can do the same picture, and you're gonna label hypotenuse, opposite, adjacent. You're gonna tell me what the hypotenuse is, what the opposite is, and what the adjacent is. And then the last thing that you're doing is that you're gonna tell me what sine, cosine, and tangent are, meaning what are the formulas. So in your paper, I'm supposed to see their title, the picture of the triangle, the meaning for adjacent, opposite, and hypotenuse, and at the bottom, I want the formulas. Alright, and if you want, put SOHCAHTOA there at the top and then your formulas at the bottom. Go right ahead, you're free to do that. And that will be your guide for this 4 weeks. So that flyer is supposed to help you to remember everything that we're talking about. So that's the first part. The second part now, and I bet that this is going to take you longer to do, answer me these 3 easy little questions. Respond to each of the following questions. Number 1, how does tangent relate to sine and cosine? In the video, it showed the relationship between sine and cosine for tangent. Alright, so if you didn't see that part, the video is in Google Classroom, the PowerPoint is in Google Classroom, this recording will be in Google Classroom. Alright, so number 1, all I want to see is tangent is equal to that little formula that was showed in the video.
In a sentence, no?
What did I just say? Tangent is equal to the formula that the video has. That's what you're going to write for number 1. Right? Because all I'm telling you, how does the tangent relate to sine and cosine? It didn't say explain. So I don't want to see a paragraph. Alright? Number 2. As God worshippers, so worshiping God, how are you able to relate the triangle ratios to the Godhead 3 in 1? So The Godhead 3 in 1, I'm talking about the Trinity. How do you relate the trig ratios to the Trinity? And that's a little bit more personal. I can't tell you what to write. That's what you think. And number 3, how can this trigonometry help you to solve real world problems? And in the PowerPoint, I gave you some examples of how we use trigonometry in real life. So all you have to do, go back to what the careers that I put there. So for example, I said video games. Video games is an example of how we use trig. How can trig help me in video games? And I don't mean the players, I mean the people that make the video games, right? So 3 questions.
Construction.
Very good. Architects use trigonometry. Construction, you don't know trig, your house is gonna fall down on top of you. Alright, so these 3 questions, you can answer it in your notebook and then you snap a picture of it. That works fine. I don't want to see these 3 questions on your flyer. Your flyer is just what I explained in the beginning. Alright? Is that clear to everyone? Any questions for today?
No, miss.
No questions, no questions. Good. We're gonna talk about this one tomorrow. Tomorrow we're gonna start actually writing the numbers into a trig ratio. Please have a calculator for tomorrow and the rest of the week and the rest of the unit and the rest of the school year. You're gonna use the calculator. So you don't have one, go buy one, download an app on your phone. Alright? Okay guys.